I think about, man, I have to perform songs every single night or every other night.
The spotlight hits the stage at Park MGM in Las Vegas. The year is 2025, and Bruno Mars stands center stage, now 39 years old. He's lived through decades of speculation, whispers, and carefully crafted narratives. But tonight is different. Tonight, he's decided to tell the world what really happened, not through some carefully coordinated PR statement, but through his own words, in his own way. You know, he begins, his voice steady but reflective. I've spent the last 15 years building this empire, performing nearly 500 shows, working 16-hour days in the studio, and sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. But nobody ever asked about the cost. They just wanted the music, the diamonds, the show. And I gave them exactly that. But here's what I'm finally ready to talk about. What happened when the spotlight went out and I was left alone with my demons? Bruno Mars didn't arrive at 39 empty-handed. His journey to this moment was paved with extraordinary achievements, but also with struggles that shaped his character in ways the public never fully understood. As a child prodigy, he performed nearly 1,000 shows before his 10th birthday. While other kids were learning to read, he was perfecting the art of captivating crowds in front of thousands. His family's musical act made him a star before he understood what stardom truly meant. They called him Little Elvis, and the comparison stuck. He was a miniature version of someone larger than life, executing movements with precision that seemed impossible for someone so young. The teenage years brought a different kind of performance. When his parents divorced, the music stopped. The lights went out. The shows ended. Suddenly, the 10-year-old performer found himself homeless, sleeping in cars, on rooftops, and even in an abandoned zoo. He practiced guitar by moonlight because electricity was a luxury they couldn't afford. He earned money doing Michael Jackson impersonations at $75 a night, saving every dollar for demo tapes and bus fare. Most teenagers would have given up. Most would have resented the world for taking their childhood away. But Bruno Mars developed something different, an obsession with success that bordered on unhealthy. He needed to prove that his family's struggle meant something. He needed to make it big. By 18, he had $600 in his pocket, 3 demo CDs, and a name borrowed from a wrestler and a girl's comment about his confidence. Los Angeles welcomed him like it welcomes thousands of dreamers every year, with indifference. He lived in motels, shared cramped studios with 6 other struggling musicians, lied his way into jobs he wasn't qualified for, and ate 99-cent tacos when that's all he could afford. When Motown Records signed him in 2004, it felt like his moment had finally arrived. But 3 pages of contract text later, they dropped him without releasing a single song. The humiliation stung, but it also pushed him forward. The years of struggle from 2004 to 2010 were transformative. Working with Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine, he developed a work ethic that became almost legendary. They studied over 1,000 songs before releasing their first one. They worked 10-hour days, 6 days a week, buying their producer burritos as payment. When they wrote Right Round for Flo Rida, when they crafted Nothing on You for B.O.B., they were building credibility while living paycheck to paycheck. By the time Bruno Mars released Just the Way You Are in 2010, he had already proven himself a dozen times over. The song shot to #1, launching his solo career into the stratosphere. But behind the meteoric rise was a man who had never learned to rest. I became addicted to performing, Bruno explains on this Las Vegas night. Not just to singing, but to the validation that came with it. If I wasn't on stage, if I wasn't in the studio, if I wasn't creating something that could break records, I felt invisible. I felt like that homeless kid again, like I was nobody. And I think that's when it really started, the gambling, the late nights, the dangerous decisions. The gambling rumors that surfaced in 2024 hit him harder than any negative press before. Unlike reviews of his music or criticism of his artistic direction, these rumors attacked something deeper. They suggested that despite all his success, he was fundamentally broken. A report claiming he owed MGM Resorts $50 million spread like wildfire across the internet. Social media exploded. Late-night shows picked up the story. Shannon Sharpe told his audience that Bruno had lost $17 million in a single blackjack session. The narrative was too perfect, too symbolic, a fallen star, trapped by his own desires, forced to work off his debts through endless performances. MGM Resorts quickly issued a denial, stating firmly that Bruno Mars owed them no debt and that their relationship was based on mutual respect. Wall Street believed them. The stock price didn't budge. But the damage to Bruno's personal psyche was already done. He had spent decades building an image of invincibility, of a man who had overcome every obstacle and emerged victorious. Now, with a single unverified claim, that image had cracks. What nobody knew, what Bruno never publicly admitted until this moment, was that the rumors, while exaggerated, contained a kernel of truth that cut to the heart of who he was as a person. He didn't owe $50 million. That number was fiction. But he had gambled. He had lost significant amounts of money. He had struggled with addiction, not just to gambling, but to the rush of high stakes, the adrenaline of potential victory, the escape from the crushing pressure of being Bruno Mars. I started gambling when I was 19, he reveals, his voice dropping. I was in Vegas, and I walked into a casino thinking I'd play for an hour. I left 3 days later, having lost everything I'd made that month. I told myself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. Over the years, there were many nights where I lost more money than some people make in a year. I'd go on stage, perform for 50,000 people, feel the energy, feel the love, come off stage high on adrenaline and endorphins, and then I'd head straight to the casino to chase that same high with money. The connection between his childhood and his adult addictions became clear as he spoke. The boy who performed 1,000 shows before age 10 had become a man who needed constant stimulation, constant validation, constant proof that he was worthy of attention. When performing wasn't enough, when even selling millions of albums wasn't enough, he turned to gambling. It was another performance, another stage, another opportunity to win or lose in front of an audience, even if that audience was just dealers and other high rollers. His relationship with Jessica Caban, which lasted over 13 years, suffered because of his addiction. She was his rock, as he'd called her in a rare interview. But a rock can only support so much weight before cracks. They met in 2011 in New York, locked eyes for 40 minutes before he had the courage to approach her, and built a life together. But his life on the road, his obsession with his career, and his secret gambling sessions created a distance that even a strong love couldn't bridge. By late 2024, their relationship had fractured. They didn't announce a breakup, didn't post dramatic statements, but instead allowed their separation to speak through absence. Her anniversary posts disappeared. She spent Christmas with her parents. He performed New Year's Eve alone in Vegas. After 13 years, they were living separate lives. Jessica was the one person who saw through all of this, Bruno says, his voice thick with emotion. She loved Bruno Mars the performer, but she also tried to love Peter Jean Hernandez, the person underneath. And I couldn't let her do that. I was too broken, too focused on proving something to a world that already believed in me. I chose the stage over the woman who gave up everything to support me. That's a regret I'll carry forever. The Silk Sonic project with Anderson.Paak became an unexpected healing moment. Released in 2021, An Evening with Silk Sonic was a deliberate step back in time, a return to analog recording and vintage soul. It was recorded in one room, with no fancy software, designed to sound like 1973. The project required Bruno to slow down, to be intentional, to work with another artist who understood the pressure of perfectionism. Anderson.Paak recorded the final drum solo for 777 at 3 a.m. after hours of tequila-fueled jamming, just one take, captured in a single moment of inspiration. The album won Grammy Awards and sold over 1 million vinyl copies in its first week, the biggest vinyl debut for an R&B act in over 30 years. But even this success, even this artistic vindication, didn't fix the underlying issues. The tour grossed $145 million from only 37 shows. Some fans paid $6,500 for a single ticket. Bruno was performing at the absolute peak of his powers, but he was doing it while his personal life was crumbling. The Die with a Smile collaboration with Lady Gaga in 2024 marked another turning point. Released on August 16th, the song broke streaming records with 27.4 million plays in a single day, more than Adele's Easy on Me. The music video was shot on old 16mm film, black and white, intimate and devastating. 2 voices, 1 chandelier, and Morse code that translated to One Last Dance. The song dominated charts for 18 weeks and became a phenomenon. During its biggest week, it earned nearly $1 million a day in publishing revenue. Every second of the song was worth over $11. At the Grammy Awards in 2025, Bruno performed the song with a gospel choir, and when he hit a long, powerful note that lasted over 11 seconds, people called him a human saxophone. But the most stunning detail, the part that nobody expected, came during the recording. The final vocal was done in one take at 4:12 in the morning. Bruno had just smashed a tequila bottle against the studio wall. The sound of breaking glass is audible in the song at 3 minutes and 18 seconds. He left it in. He said it made the song feel real, raw and honest in a way that his perfectly produced music had never been before. The collaboration with Rose from Blackpink, APT, further cemented his ability to reinvent and remain relevant. The song entered the Billboard Hot 100 at number 3, the biggest K-pop female duet debut in history. When he surprised her on stage at SoFi Stadium 9 months later, the crowd erupted so loudly that sound meters showed it was louder than a jet engine. As they sang together, 1.2 tons of confetti rained down. Spotify reported a 300% streaming spike for the song. It was vintage Bruno Mars, creating moments that transcended music and became cultural events. But here's what he finally admits, sitting on that Las Vegas stage. All of these moments, all of these achievements, they were distractions. They were ways for me to run from my problems instead of face them. I won Grammys and thought, now I'll be happy. I broke streaming records and thought, now I'll be satisfied. I performed at the Super Bowl and thought, now I'm legitimate. But none of it filled the void. None of it cured the addiction. None of it brought back the relationship I destroyed through my own negligence. At 39 years old, Bruno Mars has finally confirmed what the rumors hinted at, what the internet speculated about, what his closest friends probably knew all along. He's a flawed human being who used extraordinary talent as a shield against his own pain. He's someone who learned to perform before he learned to be human, who chose the rush of validation over the stability of genuine connection. The gambling itself wasn't the issue, it was a symptom. The real issue was a man who had been trained since age for to always be performing, always be perfect, always be worthy of attention. When life couldn't provide enough stages, enough applause, enough validation, he created stages of his own, in casinos, at high-stakes tables, in situations where his worth was measured in dollars won or lost. I'm in therapy now, he reveals. I've been sober from gambling for 647 days. I'm working on rebuilding my relationship with Jessica. I'm learning that being Bruno Mars isn't as important as being Peter. I'm understanding that the kid who performed 1,000 shows before age 10 deserved to just be a kid. And I'm trying to give myself permission to rest, to fail, to be human. The audience sits in stunned silence. This isn't the Bruno Mars they expected. This is vulnerable, honest, and somehow more powerful than any performance he's ever given. The rumors were wrong about the numbers, he concludes, but they were right about the struggle. I was drowning, and I was drowning in public while pretending to be on top of the world. Tonight, I'm finally admitting that I needed help. And I'm asking anyone out there who's struggling with addiction, with perfectionism, with the pressure to always be more than human, get help. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to be human. The lights fade as the audience rises to their feet. This confession, this moment of raw honesty, will define the final chapter of Bruno Mars' story, not as a star trapped by his own success, but as a man finally learning to live. Like, subscribe, and follow for more.